Hi guys! Today I am making a pizza with oven-dried tomatoes, mascarpone, and basil pesto. That recipe is from this wonderful cookbook, Pizza Night by Stafford. As always, I will also be giving you the scoop on what went right and wrong with last week's recipes and what I learned in the process. And with that, it's time to go in depth. Hi, I'm Maddie Burton, and I write a newsletter called On the Cusp. That's where I first wrote about my goal to cook my way through one entire cookbook and learn a lot about making pizza along the way. This video series is all about documenting my journey through this cookbook, Pizza Night, where you can hang out with me in my home kitchen and learn right alongside me. I really hope that this series inspires you to go in depth on a meaningful hobby of your own. And if that happens to be making pizzas, I would love it if you would join me. Below this video, I will include my own personal bookshop.org link, which you can use to buy this cookbook and support this series in the process. All right, so let's get down to it. Last week, I made two great recipes. First up was a barbecue chicken pizza, which I had actually never had before. Honestly, I was a little bit wary of the sour cream base and pairing peaches with chicken in the topping list. But it turns out I love the combination and it was really well balanced. Before I started, I was a little nervous about two things: not knowing which barbecue sauce to pick off of the very imposing shelf of sauce options, and since I didn't have a grill, what the cooking instructions for the chicken should be. But I made a pretty good choice when it came to the barbecue sauce, and throwing the marinated chicken in my oven to roast worked out just fine. One big change I made this week was with the flour I was using in my pizza dough. I had been using bread flour whose flavor was a little bit overwhelming, and this week I switched to a combination of 50% high gluten flour and 50% double zero flour. Spoiler alert, I wish that I had been sampling different flours from the very beginning. This dough ended up being a little wetter than I was used to, and it stretched out crazy easily, which worried me at first, but the results were incredible. The marinade for the chicken in this recipe was super easy and not a hassle to do the night before whatsoever. The recipe has you grilling this pizza directly on the grates. Since I don't have a grill, that wasn't an option that was available to me, but it would have been fun to try. Regardless, I love the results. The flavor combination was really bright and juicy, and this is something I would definitely make again. To serve alongside, I made this cookbook's classic creamy coleslaw. I know that mayo is only egg yolk and oil, but it still weirds me out. So coleslaw is not usually something that I am making. That said, I was converted with this recipe. It was bright, fresh, crunchy, and satisfying. Normally, I would choose to make a very vinegary slaw myself, but because the pizza that this was being paired with was so vinegary, I chose a North Carolina style barbecue sauce. It actually ended up being nice that it wasn't too acidic. When it comes to the changes that I would make next time, I would use a mini food processor to grate the carrots instead of doing that by hand. It took forever. And I agree with the author that the salad gets better with time, so stashing it in the fridge for a couple of hours was a great choice. I'm also really glad that I took the time to chop the cabbage and carrots instead of buying a prepackaged mix. Also, I opted to use red cabbage instead of green for the color, and I think that ended up being a good decision. I think the color really added something to the finished dish and felt like maybe green cabbage would have looked kind of drab covered in mayo. All in all, both of these recipes were wins and paired beautifully together. If you happen to be cooking through this cookbook with me, hop into the comments and let me know, because I would love to hear how these went for you. As I mentioned earlier, this week I am making a pizza with oven-dried tomatoes, mascarpone cheese, and basil pesto. This was a great recipe to use up a glut of tomatoes from the markets and to use up a lot of the basil that's been growing in my backyard. Typically, when I'm making these videos, I like to throw in lots of fun B-roll so you can see me making the pizzas for you. That didn't happen this week because my dad was visiting and I opted to put family time above above video filming time. I can tell you that it was a breeze to grab ingredients for this pizza, and the grocery bill was quite small too. After grabbing some dough that I already had in the freezer, I heated my oven to 200 degrees, sliced a bunch of tomatoes in half, and let them dry out gently in the oven for the better part of a day. I baked them until a lot of the moisture had evaporated from them, but not all. They weren't chewy or brittle. Then I went about harvesting some of my basil plants in order to turn them into pesto. This week, instead of making the salad recipe alongside, I actually opted to let my dad throw together a salad of his own making, which ended up being wonderful. While he did that, we started stretching the pizza dough and topping the pizzas. Each pizza was drizzled with some olive oil and spread with a mixture of the mascarpone and some heavy cream. Before baking, those got topped with a handful of the oven-dried tomatoes, and once they came out of the pizza oven, they got drizzled with pesto. And because I don't have a bunch of beautiful B-roll to distract you with today, I'm gonna cut to the chase. I won't make you wait till next week to hear how this pizza was. While it was a very simple pizza, it actually ended up being the favorite one that we've made so far. Part of it definitely has to do with how happy we've been with the crust modifications we've been making lately and the new flours we've been working with. But a lot had to do with this specific combination of toppings. Something about the combination of oven-dried tomatoes and pesto was really ideal here because it was the most concentrated version of the tomato and basil flavors imaginable. We had a nice big gathering around the table and it got rave reviews from everyone involved, which made me really happy. It was a great capstone to my dad's visit. All right, guys, next time I will be back to make another pizza, actually make salad this time, and let you know how everything went. I can't wait to see you then.